Okay, in the new episode of Denim and Leather podcast, I have probably the most recognizable rock and roll TV host that ever existed in history. Thank you, Vanessa Warwick from MTV's Headbangers Ball. Everybody knows you from there, and now the new Trust in Rock show.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's lovely to chat and make new friends now that I've returned to the scene.
Yeah. I don't know how long were you off the scene, but you're gonna tell me all about it. First, tell me about Trust in Rock. I noticed, you know how I followed the Trust in Rock channel through Joy Tempest from Europe. He was promoting it.
Brilliant. Oh, well, Joey's been such a great supporter of me, and I really appreciate that he did that. I guess when MTV's Headbangers Ball finished, I didn't leave the rock scene completely. I kind of went behind the camera and I started directing music videos and live concerts and documentaries. And I worked with a lot of rock and metal artists, but also some more mainstream pop artists like Kylie Minogue and Coldplay and Ricky Martin and people like that. So I stayed sort of within the TV scene, the music TV scene, for maybe another 10 or 11 years after MTV finished. And then I did a complete left turn at the traffic lights and got into property investment. And that's where I've been since then, really. But about a year or so ago, I got invited by a live streaming channel in the Baltics called Stax TV to do a new rock show, and they encouraged me to come back, and I did 8 episodes of a show called Heavy Metal Heydays, where I had some really amazing guests like Scott Gorham from Thin Lizzy and Biff from Saxon. And unfortunately, after 8 episodes, they went out of business. So that came to an end. But I'd reunited with my MTV producer, Sarah Harding, who's been my longtime friend, but she kind of helped me get back into everything. And we decided then to start our own YouTube channel and carry on where Heavy Metal Heydays left off, basically. So we came up with the channel name, which is Trust in Rock, and then we have a show called Rock Drop, which is an interview-based format. And my first guest was Alice in Chains legend Jerry Cantrell.
Wow.
So I don't think you get much better than that.
Yeah. One of your, by the way, I was looking for your list of favorite albums in the early 2000s, and Alice in Chains is on the list. 10 best albums.
Yeah.
Is that list grown since then, or is it the same of the best albums for you?
I would say it's probably quite similar. I think there's certain albums that just resonate with you, where every track means something to you. We are talking about what I would call the golden era of rock and metal, and the quality of music that came out of that era was so incredibly high, and it's quite hard to top that, really.
I was there. I was a kid. I was 10-year-old when I saw your show, and I followed you on Headbangers Ball, and I've known you since then. Now I'm 43, it's a long time for me, 30 plus years, but I know Guns N' Roses because of you. And
Awesome.
It was the first, of course my father introduced me to Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple and Sabbath and stuff, but I got more into the harder and heavier music in the early 90s when I was a kid. And after 33 years, I saw Guns N' Roses last year in Athens, in Greece.
Wonderful.
And it was it was like a dream come true, because I haven't seen them.
Well, we're so fortunate that so many of these artists are still going strong, because they have such a catalogue, an archive of incredible songs. And as you say, they've spanned generations now. And, the music that we get into in our younger years, it does, play a very important part, and it stays with us. So to be able to see artists like Guns N' Roses, Metallica, still going strong, is wonderful. And we should jump at the chance to see them, because they're not going to be around forever.
Yeah, of course. It's like you said, 80s, 90s, probably the golden era of metal, and metal is still going strong, but it's a little bit in another form. It's not that raw as it was.
I've heard quite a few people say that, and it's sad to hear that, and I think it's possibly to do with the fact that there aren't really that many outlets for rock and heavy metal music anymore. That's what I'm hearing, and maybe there's some pressure on artists to in some way have something that's commercially viable, that will get radio airplay. I don't really know, but we do have the social web, we have social media, we have YouTube, and that gives artists a platform outside of radio airplay, outside of record companies, and I regard that as extremely positive.
Yeah, you. By the way, it's a new channel and new show for you, but you have the name, and I think people will like it pretty fast. I hope.
Well, I hope so. And at first, I was a little bit reticent to come back, because I'd been away for such a long time, and I didn't think that anybody would really be interested anymore. But I'm very pleased to say I was proved very wrong. And I've had some really amazing supportive comments on my channel, and so many record companies and managers and agencies have got in touch with me and said, "Oh, we're so glad you're back." And it maybe just the timing was right for me to come back. And I want to, remember and showcase the bands that were around in my era, if you like, the MTV golden age, because they influenced so many of the bands that we see today. But I also do want to feature new heavy music, and I do feel that when I was at MTV, I did champion a lot of new bands like Machine Head, Korn, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, and I would like to, to continue to champion new music.
Yeah, when you went away from MTV, it was probably when I went to high school. I think 96, 97, something like that.
That's right, 97. Yeah. Yeah,
I was second year in high school, and I remember those days. Of course, there was some other, because I'm based in Europe, as you. But there was some other channels that we back then that were alternative, but that true, as I say, heavy metal, glam metal, thrash metal went away for a bit, when Headbangers Ball stopped with the TV shows, because of, for example, on Headbangers Ball you had the triple thrash treat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was often chosen by our viewers, and sometimes we had guest artists, choosing it and presenting it. And yeah, that was really the most extreme and heavy part of the show, and it had its own little kind of slot right at the end of the program. And I really fought for that at MTV, because in the playlist meetings they were quite reticent to have really extreme music on, But thankfully, they were open-minded and they did allow it. And I think some of the videos and artists we had on then, you wouldn't see, or they wouldn't be allowed now. So, you know, it was a great time of freedom of expression, and, you know, artists really pushing back the boundaries, which I regard as, you know, healthy. And lots of bands of today are influenced by those artists. And, you know, now that I'm coming back to the scene, I'm meeting new bands. And I can see, you know, I can feel where they got their kind of influences from.
Yeah.
But they've put their own twist on it. And it's really great to start listening to new music again and see what artists and bands are doing now. But we've still got all of this incredible music from my time at MTV's Headbangers Ball, and it still feels relevant today. And, you know, very often I'll put on tracks and I just think, wow, this is really timeless. It could be released today. And I think that's the sign of a really good song, that it doesn't date and it sounds completely timeless.
Yeah. Are you nostalgic about the time or no?
I think I am, because it was such a wonderful time of my life. I had the best job in the world. I was so fortunate. I was so blessed. I was so grateful that I had that job. And they were very happy times. And I had many adventures, many, you know, challenges where things didn't go quite as planned that I had to overcome, which is good. And yeah, I mean, it was being part of a scene, and I had so many friends in the same scene, and I was fortunate to do a lot of traveling. But most importantly, I think I was just very blessed to meet so many talented people and to see incredible bands playing live in amazing locations, and, you know, meet the people behind the music as well, because I think a lot of the artists that you know, in my era, they'd come through some quite challenging and difficult times, and they were better human beings for it. And, you know, I will cite Jerry Cantrell, because when I met him again after all these years, I really got a profound sense that he had been through a lot of challenges and struggles, but he'd come through them, and he was a much more rounded person for it. And I had immense respect for him, of how kind he was, how gracious he was to me, that he came on my channel when I didn't have a single subscriber, and that he was very engaged in the interview and most charming. And, you know, I really admire people like that have found their way through difficult times and come back stronger. And he's definitely one of those people. And furthermore, he shares a lot of the lessons he's learned from life. He shares them through his music, and they can inspire other people. It can, you know, bring comfort to people. So, yeah, we've all come a long way since the late 90s.
Yeah. I remember the late 90s well. Then new metal came, and you know, a little bit emo and stuff like that. You know, and the scene changed. It was never the same. I think the change came with the grunge, maybe.
Yeah, I think it did. And I think, you know, the advent of the social web made a big difference, because it was very positive, in my opinion, because it democratized music, in as much as, rather than record companies deciding who you were going to be exposed to, it was the fans, because an artist could build their own fan base via social media. And once they had like a massive fan base, then they could, easily go to a record company and get a deal much more on their terms. So I regard that as a very positive development, that the fans were really supporting artists from a grassroots level up to becoming major superstars. So that has changed a lot, and I think for the better, because I think in the early days maybe the record companies had too much power about who got exposure and who didn't, and even deciding which songs were singles and things like that. A lot of that was out of the hands of the artists, and I think it's much more in their hands now, which I do think is much better. And I mean, one of the things that I've really liked about doing my show now is we seem to be talking about topics that perhaps I wouldn't have broached before. We've touched, in some of my interviews, we've touched on mental health, we've touched on grief and how music can help you through a loss, and things like that. And I love that there's vulnerability there, and that people are sharing their experiences. And back in the day of MTV Headbangers Ball, I don't think we had those kind of conversations.
Probably, you know why? Probably everybody was younger back then. When I don't know, when Skid Row and when Alice in Chains were young, they were not thinking about the mental health, the soul of the people, and stuff like that. Probably they were partying and playing what they know, probably.
Yeah, exactly that. So in some ways that's been a really nice thing, and it's probably, in my future interviews, it's probably an area that I would like to explore more, and in the hope that people can take something away from it that helps them.
Yeah, like life lessons of all of the older rock stars that now can contribute to the younger generations. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, and I think that's very, very healthy. And some things that perhaps we don't talk about enough in an open way. And I would like my interviews to probably go more down those lines, and it's really important to me that the artists feel comfortable with the questions that I'm asking, and I will always respect that. And when I interviewed Jerry Cantrell, I did think long and hard before I mentioned Lane Staley, because I know that it's quite still a very difficult topic for him. But I did ask him the question about whether he feels that he's the kind of guardian of the Alice in Chains legacy, and what him and Lane and the other band members created together. And when I asked him, I could see, he did like sort of go like that a bit, but he answered the question. He actually gave a very in-depth answer, and it was a wonderful answer. So I'm really glad that I asked the question. But if he'd said, I don't really want to answer that, then I would have respected that equally.
Yeah, of course, that's okay either way. Yeah, I get it. What year did you enter? Which was the year in Headbangers Ball? Late 80s?
Yeah, I started at MTV in 1987, just working behind the scenes. And then I sort of had a very short period where I was a reporter. That was in 1989. And then it switched from, it was called MTV's Metal Hammer. It switched from that to the American format, which was MTV's Headbangers Ball. And MTV was looking for a host for it. And they said, well, look, you can do it in the meantime while we're looking. And then they never found anybody, and I was carrying on doing it. And in the end, I did go to the executive producer and say, have I got the gig? Because I wasn't getting the same kind of perks as the other VJs, like having hair, makeup, wardrobe allowance, and so on. Unfortunately, I had a few supporters with MTV high up in the hierarchy, and they said, yes, Vanessa, you deserve to be on the same level as all the other VJs. And they kind of helped me get my position more established and more formalized, because as it was, I was just the producer and happened to be presenting the show.
But you were after or together with Ricky Rachman and the other guys?
Ricky Rackman was on the US version of Headbangers Ball. Roughly at the same time, kind of running alongside the same kind of timeline as myself. Yeah.
But and there were some other hosts before Ricky, I think, there in USA. But also I talked to Dee Snider once, and he told me that he started a show, Heavy Metal Mania, that transformed into Headbangers Ball.
You may be right there. Yes, I think that might have been what happened originally in the US.
Yeah, in the US. Yeah. You guys met with both teams. I mean, your team and the US team, or no?
Yeah, we did. Ricky Rackman and the US team came over for some festivals, and I went over to do a couple of things with them. And in fact, Nancy McDonald, who was the producer of Headbangers Ball in America, was one of my best friends in the end. And, I went over to see her as a friend, and she often rang me up and said, oh, Vanessa, you've got to check out this new band. They're absolutely brilliant. And sometimes they weren't even released in Europe. And I would listen to it and think, oh, gosh, yes, I really love that. And I would ring the record company and say, look, I know they're not released yet, but can we have the video for Headbangers Ball? And often they would say yes, which was great. So she was a great support to me. And I got a lot of good tips from her about what was happening in the States. And, she gave me some good tips for new music as well. Yeah. So you can, probably a lot of bands are thankful because you promoted them, beforehand. Yeah, maybe. We used to get the playlist of MTV Headbangers Ball from the US every week. And then I would look on that and see what they were playing. And I would think, oh, I haven't heard of that band. And what's this? And then I would ask Nancy about it. So, yeah, there was a lot of crossover between the two shows. I think the main difference was that we did very in-depth interviews, whereas Ricky Rackman, his interview segments were very short, maybe 2 or 3 minutes. And they were kind of, I guess, of the opinion that people weren't interested in the longer, in-depth interviews. But I know that certainly in Europe, the fans really loved to get, a whole show dedicated to their favorite band, or a really in-depth long interview. So it was slightly different in that regard, but I think it was probably more because of, America was much more kind of fast cut and assumed less of an attention span maybe. But in Europe, the fans had a really good attention span, and they loved the more in-depth interviews for sure.
Probably that's why metal never went away in Europe. I think in America it was a different vibe back in 90s and 2000s. But in Europe, there was always metal festivals, and they were always full. It never went away.
Yeah, I think it had that really strong fan base that even when it wasn't particularly mainstream, there was still fans that supported it. And as you say, there's loads of really amazing festivals still in the UK and Europe that attract really good quality artists, like top names, and they're wonderful gathering of the tribes, aren't they? Yeah, of course, yes. After that you mentioned you went into production. I know you did, I read that you did a lot of music videos. Yep.
For Motorhead, for Richie Blackmore, for whoever, I don't know.
Yep. I did God Save the Queen music video for Motorhead.
Yeah, that's a great one.
I so enjoyed doing that as well because we got the Queen look-alike.
Yeah.
And I had her pogoing in the front row of the audience. I mean, this lady must have been in her late 70s, and I said, do you mind doing this? Do you mind doing that? She's like, whatever you want me to do, Vanessa, I'll do it. And I even had her on stage acting as a bouncer. So when this huge tattooed guy jumped up on stage, she came running out and pushed him back in. And right at the end, we'd actually finished filming. She was getting ready to go, and all of the guys from Motorhead came over, and luckily the cameraman saw what was going to happen, and he turned the film camera on, and he caught the footage of Lemmy, Mickey and Phil kissing her goodbye. And they were so charming to her and so lovely and so respectful of her. And it was just lovely to see. And we had an absolute blast driving around London on a double-decker bus open top, and then filming the live segments. And I also did Motorhead's 25th anniversary concert at Brixton Academy. You're right, I did some videos with Blackmore's Night. And in fact, one of them was, I think, filmed in Poland. And yeah, I did a lot of other kind of behind the scenes type filming with artists as diverse as Madonna, Kylie Minogue, I mentioned Coldplay, Dido. I worked a lot with the singer Dido. So yeah, it was very creative time for me. I really enjoyed it. It was a new way forwards because I realized pretty soon after MTV's Headbangers Ball was cancelled that it was unlikely that I would get another job like that. So I really had to, change direction and find a new way forwards.
Yeah, you kind of reinvented yourself with that one. And I told a friend from here that I'm gonna record with you, and she said, I think she went into construction or estate or something, and I was like, what? No. She said, yeah. She said, yeah, ask her.
Yeah, I did. Vanessa. I went into property in 2004. This was about 2 years after I'd got married, and my husband was a cameraman. So we were both in the broadcast TV industry, but at that point it was changing. It was becoming a lot harder. And we'd been working very long hours, and it was very stressful, and we were always traveling. And my husband said, look, what can we do where we could work together in a less sort of stressful environment? And we're both very outdoorsy type people. We love going hiking, and we've got a motorhome, and we go away all the time and have adventures with that. And we decided to get into property investment, and in 2004 I remortgaged my flat in London because I had a huge amount of equity in it, and I used that to build a property portfolio. And then in 2009, we started a property-related business. It's a forum for landlords called Property Tribes. And now it's in the top 2 or 3 biggest landlord and property investor communities in the UK. Wow. So I kind of went from interviewing, major rock stars to interviewing the property ombudsman or a politician or something. I like to say I went from rock and roll to bricks and mortar, but now I've gone back to rock and roll.
Yeah, but congratulations on the successful property career. It's amazing. Because of that you can now do whatever you like, probably. Yeah,
exactly that. Yeah. It's put me in a position now where I can do my YouTube channel and develop my my own TV program now, because of course 10 years ago YouTube was just in its infancy. or I don't know exactly when it came out, but it's only in the recent years that people have been able to set up their own channels. So, it seems that the timing is all good, that, now I'm in a position where I can set up my own channel and do everything that I want on my terms and not have to be, beholden to MTV or anything. And I'm so grateful for all the record companies that have, supported me. And even today, I've had emails from record companies saying, will you interview so-and-so, blah, blah. Yeah. So it's been a really just lovely return, and I've got a lot of enjoyment out of it. And I've gone back working with people that I haven't worked with for 20 or 30 years, and that's been part of the enjoyment as well.
I saw that you are doing your studio like in the hotel, right? In Soho, right?
Yep.
It will always be there, the studio, right?
Well, it's at the Karma Sanctum Hotel in London, and the hotel is owned by Iron Maiden and their associate Mark Fuller. And Mark Fuller is the most just wonderful human being that you're ever likely to meet. He's absolutely lovely. And he encouraged me to use the facilities at the hotel to record my Stack show when I was doing that first. And then when that finished, he said, carry on and use the room free of charge. Come whenever you like. And, it's great that you've got artists coming here and that you're filming here and you're helping us put it on the map. So I've got to say massive thanks to him for his support and encouragement, because it's a great location. There's always something rock and roll going on there. There's always like world-class artists staying there. It's just got those real rock and roll vibes and credentials. And there's an amazing bar there where there's loads of parties. And it's just the perfect home for me. And there's a membership there of a club. And Mark very kindly gave me a platinum metal card for lifetime membership.
Wow.
And he's only given, I think, 5 of them out, apart from obviously the band, because they stay there all the time. He gave me that card and said, you're part of the family now, Vanessa, for life. And that was just so wonderful. And Iron Maiden, they're like that. They are a family and they treat people really well. And I've met a couple of the band there when I've been there and chatted to them. And it's just so lovely that, there's that level of support there for me. And that I've been made to feel so welcome. So it's been a really enjoyable experience to go there and film.
Wow, that's huge. And I think the trust in rock is gonna be even bigger. I mean, I hope so,
I hope so. I'm trying to build it up. I need to build up my subscriber base. I've put out quite a few videos. Obviously, it kind of slowed down for Christmas and New Year, but I'm getting back into it now as we speak in mid to late January. And I've got some more artists hopefully coming in. I'm hoping to get Slipknot, maybe Pantera, Sepultura, and I've got a couple of lesser known bands coming in. So it will gradually ramp back up again as I get back into it.
Yeah, it's growing, and we're on the same struggle. We're trying as a team here to grow a few accounts, the Instagram, the Facebook, the YouTube account, because you gotta be everywhere,
Yeah, I'm really concentrating on YouTube at the moment. I've never used Instagram myself. I have got a Facebook group as well, which I think has got about 180 members. And it will all just go up organically, I hope.
Yeah.
And, I'll build my subscriber base. And, it's kind of kind of perpetuating, because if I can get bigger artists, I'll get more subscribers, and then other artists will want to come. So I'll gradually build it up that way. But right now, the main thing for me is to enjoy it, because I've had a very difficult 3 years, which I won't bore you with, but I had a very challenging situation for 3 years, which ended last June. And this getting back into my rock show has been part of wanting to laugh again and have fun. And, that's really important to me, that I enjoy it. So I shall get back into it now that the holidays are over, and I shall gradually build it back up. But the main thing for me is I want to have fun, and I want the artists to really enjoy our conversations as well.
Yeah, I hope I will follow it, and I will share it every time I can. And
bless you, that's wonderful.
And I just wanted to ask you, which was your favorite interview ever done in your life?
Wow.
with which band? With which member? I don't know.
That's so hard, because there were just so many of them. I think if it was for laughs, probably Skid Row, because they were so funny. But there were many bands that really gave so much of themselves in the interview, which I really appreciated. And some were different to how I expected them to be, some in a positive way, some maybe not so positive. So it's very hard to say, but I always enjoyed talking to Sepultura, Pantera, Korn, Machine Head, and a lot of the Seattle bands as well. I really felt a strong connection to, like Pearl Jam and Soundgarden. So I'd have to think long and hard to think about which was my favorite ever interview, because I think they were all, like babies to me, and I loved all of them. So it'd be hard to say. But I hope that I will continue to do good interviews, and maybe one of those will be a favorite. Who knows? Yeah,
probably. Yeah. I also like the logo of the Trust in Rock series now.
Thank you.
The guitar and the color, I love it.
That's so kind of you. I worked with the guys that did the Kerrang logo.
Oh, okay.
They do all the Kerrang merchandise, and I had a fair idea of what I wanted, and I actually went onto one of these free logo maker things, and I just put something very, very basic together, and I sent it to them, and said, kind of, this is what I've got in mind. And then they just came back with, I think, 4 or 5 different designs, but that one that I chose really jumped out at me. It was just exactly how I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And my favorite colors are pink and blue, so it was lovely that I had those kind of colors in it as well. And then they put our scene on Headbangers Ball on the banners, which I thought was a really good idea as well. So they helped me come up with the original brand, and now I've got my own merchandise, and I've got t-shirts and hats and stuff like that as well. So I've only sold 2 t-shirts though, but
it will grow. It will grow.
Well, it'd be nice if it did, but I think the logo does work well for merchandise.
Yeah.
And I love Trust in Rock as a name, and I've got a t-shirt with massive Trust in Rock written on the back.
Awesome.
Because I think we all do, and it's kind of a play on trust in nature, that it's there for you and it's going to be okay, and it's going to be right for you. And that's really where I took it from, just having that feeling of being very connected to something, and not even necessarily having to understand anything about it, but just to feel that strength of connection. And that's why I called it Trust in Rock. And and then my show Rock Drop, I just really liked the idea of just having these different drops every few days.
Yeah.
So something that I'll be developing more as as my channel develops.
Okay. We're coming to an end of the episode, and I'm gonna drop a lot of links from your show and from the channel. So thank you, Vanessa, one more time, and hope to see you soon again on the show when things grow up.
Well, thank you so much, Urosh, for having me on your podcast. I so appreciate that you reached out to me, and your support and your wonderful questions, and helping me get the word out there about my new channel, Trust in Rock. Means so much to me that people like you are willing to support me, and I know that you're an absolute die-hard metal fan.
Of course.
And I just love it that we've now got a connection, and I hope that we can, meet up again or do some stuff together sometime in the future, because I really do appreciate your support.
Hope so. Thank you, Vanessa.
All right, lots of love. Bye, everybody.
Bye.